Okay, so welcome everybody. We're recording. We're recording this for public use in hopes that others might be able to learn from the stories that are shared and to give people a chance to just kind of catch up on the projects that have been happening around the world. And I would love to just take a minute to have you introduce yourself and say the name of your project before we launch. And then I have kind of an official mini speech, and then we'll look at our presentation. So I'll begin. My name's Laura Moulton, and I am with Street Books. I'm the executive director of Street Books, and I'll hand it to John since he's to my right on the screen.
Hi, my name is John. I'm a librarian for Street Books. So I've been volunteering for probably like 2.5 years now. And I have a regular shift every Monday. And yeah, I try to help out with different projects as well. So yeah, I'll be here. I'll be helping Laura kind of keep track of time during the presentations. As you get to about like 9 minutes, I'm gonna kind of give you like a thumbs up to wrap it up in the next minute or so, and do my best to lightly interject after that to kind of wrap things up. So yeah, we can pass that on. Stazek, you're to my left there. Why don't you go ahead?
Yes, hello and good evening from Poland. We are new here, so I'm really honored to be with you tonight in Poland. Yeah, I am from Olésnica bike style. It might be surprised when you saw the poster, and the name could be a little secret for you because it's like bike style. It's a phonetic sound of English in Polish, so Olésnica bike style. The bicycle group from Poland. The bicycle project is called Bookworm, and we are cooperating with Public Library, which I work daily as a PR specialist. And more I will tell during the presentation. So happy to see you all, and really happy to hear what you are doing in your cities. Hello.
I'll go next. Terry Wolfgram. I'm with Paperback Rider in La Crosse, Wisconsin. It's pretty much just me riding the bike around, giving books away.
Hi, I'm Patrick with Street Books ATX, board chair, librarian, picker up of messes, minister of pain, whatever you need.
Thanks, y'all. I appreciate you being here so much, and I can't wait for maybe next year we're going to Poland, or we'll see where we want to meet. That would be our best international option. I will say, speaking of international, that there were two partners that I really hoped would meet today with us and who were not able to make it, and that's Jamie from Australia and Lincoln Paiva from Brazil. And for various reasons, they're not able to be here, but they definitely are here in solidarity and have very cool projects that they've done. So without further ado, I'm going to share screen and just show you a few slides here. And so welcome. This is our official first slide, Second International Street Library Summit. And it's a virtual gathering. Thank you, Zoom. And I will say that the first gathering ever was several years ago with Patrick Crawley in Austin, Texas. And so that was very exciting. This is our second one, and hopefully we keep it up. But I just want to say a brief introduction here and just kind of acknowledge the purpose of this Street Library Summit. And that is that we draw together in a spirit of camaraderie. We listen to the history of the various projects and their successes and their challenges. And then we look at several projects that are centered around people living outside, but also recognize that there are other projects that don't focus on a particular demographic and that have been more focused on a broader public. And regardless, each of these projects has used books to connect, to uplift, to educate, to liberate, to build culture, and to create community. And so that is a very exciting thing. And we're so grateful that you have made the time to come and share your projects. So I will just say a brief few words about street books, and then we can go to the next person. But I want to say, at the heart of street books, we aim to empower people on the streets through access to literature and to create a community of support for people living outside through a shared love of books. And we have, at this point, we started in 2011. We have about 5 admin staff and about 8 librarians at any given time. We operate shifts 5 days a week in Portland, and we have multiple stops built into each of those days. And we go to different parts of the city. And most importantly, I think, and recently, we have added things under harm reduction, whether if it's very hot weather, we try to bring water and things to support folks. In hot weather, we've responded to cold weather, and we've also responded most recently to the issues that we're facing in Portland on the streets with overdoses, and we've offered Narcan on shifts to try to revive people. And so those are a few of the operations that we've done more recently. And then I just want to show you a few slides of our kind of past. Oh, and our agenda, of course, which is welcoming introductions, which we've done. We've invited people to do the brief history of your project, successes and challenges. Street books will go first. If we don't have Alicia from Bibliobicicleta, we'll hop to Stajek with Bookworm, and then we'll go from there. And then we'll hear each person, and then we'll do kind of a conversation and wrap up. So here is a look at the very original bike, which I know many of you have looked at. Some of you, well, all of you, quite closely, because in some cases, I remember Patrick saying, hey, can I get the plans or, any sketches from your original bike? And it was like, man, it was on a napkin, and my brother and I did it. And so I wasn't that much help, actually. But Patrick actually managed to build quite a beautiful replica, and same with Stajek. And then it's very cool to see also what Terry was able to do. So this is a fun sort of look at various people's branches and versions of the original. So this is a picture you can see from 2018 that's a ribbon cutting using the old school bike. This is a picture of what the bike looks like from above in the little pull-out drawer. And this is our second bike, and that's Diana Rempe, our community outreach director, modeling that bike. And so this was a donated frame, and then an artist neighbor of Diana's built us the box. And then this is the newest bike, and this is cool because it kind of echoes Terry's design there in Wisconsin, but it's basically a fold-out bike that has a chalkboard and is fancy that way. This is the one John uses on his park block shift. And then this is the most recent summer launch, 13 years of street books, with our team gathered around the original street books library. So we have a kind of soft spot for the original bike, even though it's starting to be somewhat creaky in nature. And then I just want to mention the importance of a brick and mortar for us, and that has been inside the St. Francis Park Apartments, and that is an affordable housing complex in Portland where the residents are able to come down and access books. But it's also super valuable for us because we use it as an office, a meeting space, and then we store our bicycles in Old Town in the downtown core, and they are able to operate from there. And I would just say one of the last things is one of the coolest things about this experience more recently has been that I was able to write a book with Ben Hodgson, who was one of our former library patrons. And so when I met him, he was living outside in Old Town. And over time, he moved indoors. He began to work with us at Street Books, and we were able to write a book together. And it's really a cool thing for him his voice is incredible. So I recommend the book if you haven't read it. I hope I've sent everybody a copy, but if you don't have a copy, I'm going to send you one. And so, so that's been a very cool thing. Loners, the Making of a Street Library. And it has a how-to guide in the back, and we've actually translated that how-to guide into Spanish. And so that's available as well. So that's a little bit about street books, and I'd like to pass it on next. And I think that I'll escape for a second and stop sharing just so that we can see each other. And then I would say, I don't see Alicia yet in the join room. And so I think we should go to Stajik. And what I've done, I hope this is okay, is sort of assembled your photos. And I thought we could kind of look through them first. Then you can talk. And if there's anyone that you want to have me show, I'm happy to do that. Okay. And so let me just I'll pull up Stajik next. Okay, then I'll go back to sharing. All right, so here's the first beautiful collage sort of page of Stajik's bookworm. And I'll just go through a few, and then feel free, Stajik, you can have me scale back or find a different one. This is an awesome picture. These are beautiful. Do you take these pictures, Stajik?
Yeah, there is a thing about our group that our community is really strong. And Sebastian, who you saw on the first photo, he's a photographer, he's an artist, he is a bike mechanic, he is a bike builder. So we have that one person, he's like a Renaissance person, all the talent this is my best friend, and I really enjoyed that he's with us. Without him, the Olésnica bike style wouldn't exist, I think. So all the photos are made by him. So yeah.
Yeah, they're so beautiful. These are incredible.
You can see, of course, much more on our Facebook page. Yeah, this is like a photo story that I will add some text later, but see what's happening in small town in Poland. Yeah.
And so, yeah, if you want to just start talking, Stajik, and I'm happy to move around as needed.
Yeah, we can start with that duo photo. So I prepared a proper introduction, because I think that our background and what we are doing is like really important to the bookworm story and street book story. So again, my name is Staszek, which can be translated to Stanley King, literally. So you can call me Stanley. I was born and raised in Olésnica. It's a small but beautiful and historical town in Poland, located just about like 30 kilometers from big city Wrocław. Olésnica is a city with 35,000 inhabitants, and it is located between Warsaw, so Polish capital, Berlin, Germany, and Prague. And you can reach to these cities in just less than 4 hours by car, so you are in a really good position. I travel a lot, but my home is where my heart is, and my heart is in Olésnica with my family. As I said, I work in a public library. I am now in my office, but also I am a founder and one of the members of a bicycle group called Olésnica Bike Style. We are an informal group of friends, and we were established in 2014. And we have people from different backgrounds, as I said, photographers, culture workers, librarians, musicians, artists, graphic designers, restaurant owners, and we share one love with bikes. The inspiration from the group came from the New York photographer, Sam Polser, who photographed American cyclists in New York and published a book called New York Bike Style. And this was the beginning of our group. That's why we are called Olésnica Bike Style. We want to show people around the world that we have many cool cyclists in our small city. So we started post photos on Facebook, on Instagram, but soon we stated that we want to do more, that we want to go outside, that we want to meet people. That's why we organize, among others, bicycle trips, photo and art exhibitions. We provide lectures and workshops for kids and seniors about bicycle safety, about bicycle culture. Also from September 2015 to June 2016, thanks to the fund from Polish-American Freedom Foundation, we organized project with seniors and dug up old cycling pictures. So it was also really, really cool activity. We are also taking part in European youth exchanges within Erasmus Plus project. Inspired by another book, Velo, Bicycle Culture and Stories, we built a rickshaw. You saw it earlier, two bikes together, there was a rickshaw. We built it in 2019. And we are part of global movement called Cycling Without Age. It was a result of a visit in Olésnica, Ole Kasso from Copenhagen, who was a founder in Denmark in 2012, that global movement Cycling Without Age. And after the meeting in 2019, our rickshaw was implemented, included in that global network as a first bike in Poland. The second location is in Krakow. And of course, we are also really, really proud of that library bicycle project in our city. It's called Bookworm. And it was inspired also by a book called My Cool Bike, an inspirational guide to bikes and bike culture by Chris Haddon, and a chapter about street books and Laura. Yeah, it was our first self-made cargo bike. And it was built by Sebastian in his bicycle workshop. He also designed all the technical solutions and how we use that bike. At the beginning, it was hard to find some kind of a grant to build that machine, but we didn't want to hide that project in a drawer. So we asked our friend for help. Back then, it didn't have any electric engine. So the cost of the building that bike was like 4,000 Polish zlotych, which is like $1,000, I think. Yeah, and thanks to cooperation with our public library, every Friday we deliver books to people in needs. The library, in addition to traditional book collection, also offers books in large prints and also audiobooks to listen to on CDs. Thanks to this, our campaign is very popular among elderly and people with some kind of disabilities. They cannot go to libraries, so they call us, and every Friday I am jumping into that bike and traveling through city with books. The biggest boom in our situation was during pandemic, when people needed to stay at home and we were open, so we delivered books to everyone who called us. In 2022 alone, almost 1,000 titles were delivered to homes of Olésnica readers. So in 2023, so at the beginning of that year, we add an electric engine because of that significant increase in visits. But as you saw, and you can see also on our Facebook page, the bike is not only used for delivers. We are also collecting books from donors who want to find a new home for their used books. Also during open book fairs, we organize free book takeaway for kids. I saw it on your Facebook that you also have that offer for kids. So every kids who want to read, they just get books for free. Also, we are partner of Wrocław Cycle Fest. This is biggest non-sporting event in our region. Every year, thousands of cyclists gather on the streets in a great peloton. And then we are meeting in a bike picnic in a park. So it is really cool event to be part of. Also, we are taking part in a cargo bike festival. It's a cargo bike, so it's obvious that we are there. And you can see on the photos Laura showed you earlier, there was like a race in 2017 of two Polish bike libraries from Olésnica and from, yeah, this is it, from Olésnica and from Krakow, and I can officially say that we are the fastest. So yeah,
Nice.
I'm first. Yeah, the second place is the director of the Krakow library. So it was really cool. As you can see, they call. It's hard to explain in English. Maybe it's like a moving reading place. Lotna czytelnia. It's maybe not literal translation, but we are love in their action. So yeah, I think in next summit we will be more partners from Poland, sorry. And also we were taking part in IFLA Congress in 2017. Wrocław was the host of that global event. The IFLA World Library and Information Congress, called WLIC, is the most international professional and trade event for the library and information services sector. We were invited there by American company called Innovative Interfaces. And thanks to that cooperation, as you can see in the next picture, we built our second bike library, which we sent to another one, like two libraries. It's like a brother for our bookworm. We sent it to the library in Latvia, in a city called Liepaja. Yeah, and the third bike library, the last picture in that slideshow, was built for Polish library in Piaseczno. So yeah, it all started. Yeah, this is the second bookworm, and the next is built for Piaseczno. Yeah, all started in 2016 thanks to the Street Books chapter. So I'm really amazed that I am here with you tonight. So thank you very much for your attention. Thank you, Laura and Street Books crew, for invitation to that activity and constant support. You may not know that, but Laura sent us a package with the books to Poland. And we are really proud to have that books with us on some book fairs and bike presentation. Yeah, and I'm really proud that small cities like ours can be, I don't know, example, and I hope inspiration for others. And I think that the biggest changes sometimes can start in small cities. So thank you very much. If you have any further question, and I'm saying this to all people who are watching us after the meeting, yeah, you can contact us via Facebook page. There is a phone number, there is like an email address, you can contact us. So if you have any further question, please do. I am for you. Thank you very much. Bookworm from Olésnica, Poland.
Thank you so much, Staszek. It was so exciting when we got pictures of Staszek putting on his blue t-shirt in Pride, and John is rocking the
I have a
blue
button as
t-shirt.
well.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much. And we'll as we wind up today, we can we'll have time for questions, and so feel free
Of course.
to hit Staszek as you like. Let's go to Terry. And Terry, I have a couple of slides here, and maybe I'll do the same. I'll just kind of page through them,
Okay.
and then I'm happy to back up as needed. But introducing Terry Wolfgram from Paperback Writer in Wisconsin. I think this might be your first post ever, Terry.
Yep.
I love
That's
this.
it.
Heading out for the first time. I hope I don't tip over. We'll be downtown and at Riverside Park. Find me and get a book. I love watching the origin of things and the way it's
Yeah, that's like my
and-
favorite Facebook memory every year to pop up.
So going forth, nice one.
Little
I
hair
love
change.
the sweatshirt. That graphic is so cool.
Mm-hmm.
The beautiful bike. Oh, and then we go to
That's not mine.
so talk to us, Terry.
All right, I don't think I'm gonna be as do as good a job as previous guy, but here we go. Somewhere, sometime, I read an article about Laura and street books. I was like, that's interesting. I grew up in Minnesota along the Mississippi River. All of a sudden, little free libraries had popped up, and it's like, cool. 15 years ago, we moved downriver to La Crosse, and we rent, so landlord wasn't real hot on setting up a little free library. So I was like, okay. So I was busy. I had a young kid that kept me occupied, and And I started thinking about this. I'd come back, I'd search every once in a while. Oh, that's what they're doing. And in 2018, I was looking on the little free library site. It's like, oh, they have mobile charter numbers. That would work on a bike, which I know I didn't have to have that, but I also knew people would think I was more legitimate if I did have that. They would understand it more. So that I took that bike out. And what you didn't see is on that first day, I posted that picture, and then I have a comment underneath it with a picture of a Haley trike, which is what I have now. And it said, "This is the dream." 11 months, no, 13 months later, I had that bike. So I just would go around to parks and down to the park at the river, wherever kids were hanging out. I mostly give away books to kids, but I always have something for everyone. And I gave away almost 500 books that first year, not knowing what I was doing. I met a local guy who coordinates monthly group rides, basically a bicycle bar hop. And he saw me when it was just a bicycle. He's like, "This is amazing." Starts taking pictures, posts it. He has a lot of people that follow him. That's where books started coming in, piling up on my porch. And he's just been a great connection. He's helped us out tremendously. I won't say his name because he doesn't like publicity. So April I started. May I got a trailer because I was like, this basket's ridiculous because it was so hard to steer. And then by June, I had convinced my husband to build a box that sits in the trailer and would open up. But it still was tippy when I would stop. And I was always worried a kid was going to get crushed. So, because I had a good year and people encouraged me to do a GoFundMe. So I started that in November. And I was working at a local yarn shop at the time. And we had a dyer from near Albuquerque who just thought it was the greatest thing. So she actually did a colorway called Paperback Rider. It was black, kind of an off-white with flecks, she said, for text, and orange. And she gave us, I think, half of whatever she sold, we got. So I got the bike in May, and shortly after it showed up, she was up for a visit. So we put it in the shop. Usually we would have a table to put all her yarn on. We put it all on the bike so she could see it. And I've got a great picture of her sitting on it. And then she got to go to the farmer's market with me the next morning and see it in action. That was really cool. And so that second year, I gave almost 1,000 books because I could get to more places more easily. And people were starting to realize what it was. Adults were still skeptical, thinking there was, free books. That can't be right. And then 2020 happened. We won't talk about that. And then by 2021, people were reaching out to me to come to events, which was a nice change. I didn't have to find places to go because I started doing more community events as well as just hitting the parks. And I had like a scheduled, I go out 3-4 days a week, and it was really fun. I got to know kids. There's one kid from that first year I'm still in touch with. I go to his football games now. And then at the end of 2021, we became an official nonprofit, 501c3, whatever. And so now I have a board and I have no idea what I'm doing, but that's fine. And then a local community foundation added us to some Giving Tree thing at the end of last year. And we raised enough money through that to pay for a year's rent at a really cool space downtown. Unfortunately, it's on a second floor, but there's an elevator. It's fine. The books are out of my house. We're all happy. And it's a really cool building. So what did I do last year? So 2021 and 2022, I did 800 to 900 books each year. And again, it's just me for the most part. We have taken a table and a tent to some events, but I like being on my bike. So yeah, it's fun, it's tiring, and I should probably find some other people to help me out, but it's my bike and I don't want to share. And then this past fall, I started working at an elementary school just 3 blocks from here. So that's been a real good tie in, because my job is to listen to kids read and to read with them and to read to them, and they pay me, and it's crazy, but so that's been really fun. I get to bring the bike there, ride it down the halls in the school for certain events, and yeah, it's been a lot of fun. And I see those kids and they come running when they see me now at different events. So yeah, my main thing is kids, getting the kids to read. We live in a low income neighborhood. If they want books, they're gonna get books from me. Yeah, I don't know if there's much else to say, but it's fun. If you're interested in doing this, feel free to email me as well.
Thank
There you
you,
go.
Terry. Thank you so much. What a cool job, just to listen to kids read and to read to them. Oh my gosh.
It's the best.
It
So I
sounds
got a
like,
bunch of kid books here.
oh, that's awesome. Well,
Mhm.
thank you so much. Let's move on. We'll go to Patrick next, and then we'll kind of circle up and check in. Patrick, I have a fancy first collage slide here, and then I'll
Yeah,
go
look at you.
through- I know, right? And then
Yeah.
I'll just go through a couple of shots here, and then I'm happy to back up
Yeah, sure.
as with the others.
Yeah.
This is beautiful because you can see the beautiful, beautiful armadillo.
Nice.
That's a great action shot. Yeah.
Do them all myself. Okay, so I am a member of the Texas Library Association. I'm also a member of the Association of Bookmobile and Outreach Services here in the United States. I am not a trained librarian. I never completed college, but I grew up very poor. I grew up in an area that I drive by every Wednesday shift that was a public project. And when I grew up, one of the places that I always would go that I felt at home and safe was the public library. And so I've been reading since I was 3 years old. Because I was a reader, I went to Catholic school because my mother made me, but I always excelled at studies. I got a scholarship to Denmark in 1972, where I learned how everybody rode bicycles. And not only that, they had a book called Rød Ulm. And Rød Ulm is known as the long ships. Everybody in Scandinavia, the Swedes claim that he's a Swede. The Norwegians claim he's a Norwegian. He's the greatest Viking of all. So I had a very, I would say, storied past. I've done a few things. I've been temperate for more than 36 years. I've been involved in addiction recovery services for about that amount of time. I've been a outreach person in prisons, and I'm currently qualified as an outreach volunteer for the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. So when I went into street books, the books to me are a secondary enterprise, but they remind me, I'm so sorry that the person from San Francisco isn't here, but I was homeless in San Francisco. I hate the word homeless. I believe that everybody that's here on this planet, this is our home. It's whether we decide to share it or not is always the trick of the whole deal. But I remember that it could be very, very cold in San Francisco. I was somebody that stayed up all night, that walked all night and slept during the day. And when I had my back against some concrete that was warming up, where I could warm up near the Embarcadero and some other places in San Francisco, it'd be great to have a book in my back pocket that I could read and kind of fall asleep and feel comfort and warm. So I was in business. I had planned to move to Austin, Texas. I'd made a lot of plans with a big company that was going to start an office. And as the story goes, I sold my house and everything, and I was treated poorly by them because they subsequently failed to deliver on their promises. And then they said they'd abandoned the project. So I was here. And I was at a stage in my life where I'm not saying I'm the wealthiest person, but I'd accumulated a little bit of coin, and I have a Texas corporation that's a game design company, board games and card games primarily. But I saw Laura's project in 2015, and it reminded me of so many things. So that as I tried to get that other business off the ground, and I was going around Austin, and I could see Chalmers Court, which was just like a place where I grew up, with, you know, dirt in the backyard, with one merry-go-round and outdoor trees where you could hang your clothes to dry, and being surrounded in a culture that was so driven, like San Francisco's, by the urge to become wealthy through tech and all these things, with no consideration of what the byproduct would be. And to me, the byproduct has always been that somebody always ends up underneath those persons' wheels, to use a bike metaphor. And so I went and met with Laura and Diana when I was much thinner, and I dare I say it, somewhat handsomer than I am now. And we met in New York City, and they said, yeah, go for it. And of course, Laura and Diana, my heart, you know, love them. But yes, when it came to, you know, Laura, you could tell was an academic, and Diana is kind of a punk rock chick, kind of academic. So if I asked them for details, you know, the end of my career, I was working for engineers. So I know people that can specify stuff right out to the last decimal point. And the thing about Laura and Diana's thing was like, well, I don't know, somebody did it. And I took the picture of Laura, her overhead shot, and used that as a design concept. And that's how I got the library built. I found a company in Texas, Denton, Texas, that was importing bikes from China, that were, their primary use was to transport children. They had an open box concept with benches and seat belts. And I talked the owner of that company into providing me a frame. I then found somebody through a sobriety 12-set group that knew a guy that was a woodworker that needed some work. And so we kicked around some sketches and came up with something that mirrored Laura's design. And then my friend in Minneapolis who does murals, who's also my design artist, and I discussed the design concept, because I wanted to keep the book bike as Laura had in street books, but I wanted to make it unique to Austin, Texas. And so that's where we came up with the armadillo. And when I'm on the streets of Austin and people see the armadillo, this is the armadillo capital of the world back in the day. There's just an immediate identification that is part of Austin, Texas. There have been some bumps along the way. You know, I'm sorry Diana is here, but Jason Martin, one of the people who helped me start the nonprofit paperwork and led me through that whole process, was with Book People. And that's the largest independent bookstore here in Austin, Texas. And unfortunately, and at one point, Jason was saying, maybe we can get you a space here in Book People where you can do some staging, or I would have a space that somebody would actually donate. And unfortunately, Jason, he took his own life about a year into the project, and we're, you know, his loss is felt almost every day. I can't speculate, but I know that one of his concerns was that the city was becoming way too overgrown, and it kind of lacked a certain spirit that he kind of felt when he first moved here. And I think even Diana could say she felt it when she moved here. So my outreach is, I do give books to children. I do give comic books, but unfortunately in Austin, Texas, everybody thinks I'm trying to sell something. This is now the 10th largest city in the United States, and if you're not a capitalist, you're nobody. And so people think I'm an ice cream vendor.
Yeah.
And sometimes it works out. Yesterday, when I was on my shift, yes, I had some ice cold water for some regular patrons, but my wife works for the largest grocery store here in Texas, which is H-E-B, and she got some free ice pops. So I had ice pops yesterday that I handed out to guys for waiting in the library before they went in for the soup line, and some of my regular patrons by the park. there are many times at this point, the largest funder of my library has been South by Southwest. And my copy of Loners is now in the library of Hugh Forrest, the co-president and chief programmer of South by Southwest. And I've spoken at Hugh's child's school. South by Southwest has funded me initially, and then Hugh has donated a little bit here and there along the way. Without that support, quite frankly, the pandemic was very hard. I continued to operate with the exception of about the month when I came down with COVID. I had the OG COVID, and I've had COVID about 3 times. That was the only time the library quit operating. I am now at a point in more than 6 years of operation where the pictures you show with Amber Price, she's the one of the senior members of our homeless outreach services team here. No, that's somebody from the Rotary. But there's Amber. They have a monthly pop-up resource center that is the county sponsors, and Amber always lets me know where they are because people ask her, are there going to be books there? And so that's, the city itself have very weird structure. I'm telling you, I'm talking to you from Texas, where Book People is now suing the state of Texas over book censorship laws. The library associations I'm associated with for the past year, I said, hey, have you guys heard anything about books being removed? And nobody's hearing about it because the books are just being removed. This is not a friendly state, I'll tell you that. I read in the morning paper that the Texas Criminal Justice Division is actually manufacturing the barbed wire that's being put into the Rio Grande River that has caused so many deaths and injuries to people coming across the border. It's a hard state to live in, but for the few of us that do real outreach, and I talk to, it seems to be increasingly few, we feel it's necessary that we do whatever we can. And unlike Laura and Diana, I'm not on the front lines of anything where anybody's going to toss any tear gas these days, but I just try to be out there and to be present. Yesterday, I was downtown and there were about 5 or 6 guys from the Texas Department of Public Safety and guys in handcuffs. There are a lot of arrests going on. There are a lot of sweeps going on. And I think the good and bad thing is I know a lot of those guys. And when I'm on the street, I know people who a lot of people avoid that will actually cross the street and ask me things like, hey, do you have any Star Wars comics today? And I go like, I do. Or, they'll actually cross in front of traffic sometimes, which is very embarrassing, but that's what they do. I don't know that I don't tell people I'm beloved, but I do know a lot of people. I know street preachers. I know ravers. I know people passed out in the gutter. I don't have a lot of, when I'm at these public resource events, there are people from the city government. I knew the former mayor and city manager, and I have a very odd relationship with politics. I don't care for it very much because there's just a whole industry that's built around what I consider to be exploitation of a condition that continues to increase and we don't get our hands around. But I'll tell you what, people do notice who don't know who I am when they see me talking to somebody that they don't know, and they get something. They get a comic book, they get a magazine, they find a book. Those people come up to me, hey, you made somebody happy today. Mm-hmm. And you know what? It's a very small goal. It costs me personally. Like I say, I don't have the funding. My library is along Laura's original. It's a micro budget. And so I have disassociated from social media. I don't promote anything that way. Everything is word of mouth. All the books, almost all of them, are public donations, unless I bought them myself. So hopefully the library continues. If it doesn't, and Laura's asked this before, I have a great art project. It's too bad our friend from Poland is here, but if this library has to end for any reason, I'm going to pile all the books on top of the library and create a massive bonfire and stand in front of it reading Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451. So that's my plan for the future. But yes, I am so glad that I met Laura and Diana. I ultimately praised them and under my breath cursed them. So there you go.
We feel both the praise and the cursing, Patrick.
That's good.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so glad that Patrick mentioned Alicia again, and I feel like we should circle back and just look at the images she sent. And then I'll share with her this slideshow. Apologies for the vertigo. But this is Bibliobicicleta, Alicia Tapia, Tenderloin, San Francisco, California. And Alicia first wrote, I believe, in 2013, and just said, hey, saw your Street Books project. And we exchanged a few emails. And probably, as Patrick will know, and anyone who's reached out to us, we usually respond, hopefully, at least once with a very enthusiastic email. And then we have not historically been the ones that write the next week and say, how's it going? Now that we have the book and the how-to guide, we've tried to kind of up that arm of us to be more supportive. But as you know, and as Patrick learned from hard experience, a lot of that was building in your own trenches and then reaching out and waiting for us to get back. But here's Alicia's project, which I think is so cool. And I'm sorry that she's not here to speak to it. But you can see the little chalkboard structure there. And this is her on her bike, and it's connected there to the little trailer that she's pulling. And my understanding of Alicia's project is that it too was kind of wide open. She didn't go in with any particular audience in mind, and provided children's books and also books for adults. Here are a couple of great pictures. And I think this might be the last one, and this another just nice one. And so I think that, I mean, part of these projects, I think, kind of at the heart of these projects are what happens when you set up in a public space, and then all of the conversations and all of the interactions that come next. And I'd love to throw out the idea of how this has been for you all, what you've noticed about the communities that have formed or that have sprung up, whether things have become regular. I'm struck also by Stajek's project where he's connecting books to older people who may not be able to come out of their apartments and may not be able to access that public square anymore. And so what I'd love to do is, as we kind of pivot out of the slides, just check in, share thoughts and any questions that have come up from this conversation, and then kind of advice for anybody who's interested in starting something like this. So let's get out of this share so we can see each other a little bit better again. And then anybody have a first thought you want to start with? Yeah, Stajek, go ahead.
Yeah, so first of all, it's a real pleasure to see you again and all your ideas. For Terry, I have a suggestion if you work with the kids, because maybe I didn't put that photo to the slideshow, but we use like Sebastian, who built the bike, has like drawings of the bike, which he get rid of all the colors, and we have a coloring. And it's an amazing thing when we go to schools and children are designing their own cargo bike and the use for it. So it's really cool that you can go with the bike, and I can send you the project because it's free. You can clear it, the name, and put yours, no problem. It's the same. We have the same structure of the bike, so it's easy. And it's really amazing. Go to kids and you ask them, what do you think, what's your dream bike? And they're planning bike for animals, for flowers, stuff like that. It's really amazing and inspirational.
Very cool. Thank you.
The thing is that I even when we described the project at the beginning and we said the inspiration came from Lara, we don't work with, I don't also like, now I don't like the word homeless people, as the Patrick underlined it. You have a great definition, but we do not have that, difficulty problem, it's not a good word, but we started to work with elderly people. And I think it's also good thing that we are they are part of the community, that we are coming to their homes. I am in a person that have official work, so it's easier for me as a worker of an institution to get in their homes. But I think that the books are really good for them to be a part of the community, to speak with me just about daily problems every Friday, just to meet. It's really cool that we have a little bit different approach, but in other areas, I think we have a lot of in common. The question for me is, and for all you, and I would like to hear the answer, because with Terry we have the same, as I can say, the solution for opening and presenting the books. And I was wondering, did you, Laura, for example, when you started, because we also thinking about implementing that solution as Patrick to build a bike, but we decided that it would be better. And do you have like any suggestion which solution is the best? The first Bicicleta has different approach also. It's like a cargo trailer. So I'm just wondering, did you try the other solutions when you decided that we built that bike? It's just like a general questions for you.
Yeah, I would just say, in my case, the bike that was original was very much what I could find at the time. I had a very kind of loose idea of what that might look like. And the thing that I realized only later was this original Haley trike was just a box. And my brother is the one that helped me. He added the drawer, the pull-out drawer, and that custom feature, I realized only later, was pretty important because it enabled people to come up and be able to look at what was happening, but not get too close, so that if they wanted to kind of scope it and understand what the project was before they committed, it was much easier with that pull-out drawer than it was for them to come up to the box itself and look inside. And so those were things that I realized afterward. And I think Patrick could speak to that in terms of design as well and what he's seeing. But then also John runs the Monday shift with a bike that opens more like yours and Terry's, I think, Stajik. So he may want to weigh in. Patrick, do you want to add to that design-wise?
As I mentioned, I'm a member of the Association of Bookmobile and Outreach Services. And Terry, you might want to look into joining it.
I haven't joined, but I've participated.
I say I'm retired. You know, one of the downsides of being part of anything that so-called professional librarians are part of is everybody in there is looking for 501c4s and cities' money. So they have a lot of great design concepts, but they're all very expensive. I remember listening to the president of Haley Trikes, and one of the people he mentioned was the guy who started the street bike movement in Chicago, who'd actually got the first Haley trike made, which is one of the things I shared with Laura when I started, because the person here at our public library wrote a college paper on his doing that. Gabe Levinson did that in the city of Chicago, and somebody in the city council had a problem with it, and then there were a bunch of people had an uproar because he was just giving away books. He just had a Haley trike that he had him build. So I asked the guy point blank, and the question was like, would you have a special discounted program for the people that are doing like a 501c3 outreach program versus a 501c4 or something that's more municipally funded? And oddly enough, he never said. But the good thing about those guys, Icicle and Haley and all those guys, is there are multiple concepts. So there's the open door concept, kind of the saloon door that I've seen you use. But there's also the cube concept. And I don't know if you've seen that, where there's actually a modular assembly on the top that swings out. And then
that's what my husband built for my trailer.
There are two shelves on it. I found, much like Laura did, that the key to the thing is I like when people see my bike, they go like, hey, and I'm sure they do so in Poland too, like, hey, did you make that? And I go like, well, I didn't personally craft it, but yeah, it's a custom. It is one of a kind. It's not something that I went down to the corner store and put it in order for, and they just slapped my logo on it. You know, that is, I think that's part of the community concept that I'm trying to promote, as well as the books. So I don't know if that's helpful, but that's, you know, I will tell a couple stories. Since Alicia wasn't here, I've taken my wife. I told you I've been on the street in San Francisco, and so you know what? I wax rhapsodic about San Francisco. I remember when I went there, and I've been up in the loft in City Lights where Allen Ginsberg read Howl, and you know what? Lawrence Ferlinghetti, and I'll sit there and read the poetry, and I'm like, yeah. But you know, that area of town, when I was there, the Tenderloin was the seediest area of town. And it got cleaned up under Mayor Dianne Feinstein, which is about the time I left. But then it's gone back to what it was before. So I would take my wife around San Francisco, and I go like, well, we'll go around places that I'm familiar with. And she remarked to me, she goes like, why is it that when we go by places that you were around when you were young, they're always so seamy? What's up with that? So, and then the other is that I was showing around some software designers from Lodz. And I'm sure you've heard of Lodz because it's in Poland, but there was somebody I knew that hired some Polish software designers, and they were in Seattle. And so I thought I'd take them around Seattle, and I would show them, you know, the old town and the new town. And that was the time before the Amazon headquarters was finished, but it was in construction. And while we were walking around downtown in the old areas like Pioneer Square, there were all kinds of tents that had popped up near the Mission. And so these people from Lodz, they were so cute. He had two daughters that they were older daughters, but they said like these tents, these people can just put these tents out here. And I said like, well, yeah, they're just putting, you know, and they're thinking like they're backpacking through Europe on the summer. They're like, oh, this is so cool that you can do this here. And they didn't really understand what the rough sleeping was that was going on outside was, but it was kind of a classic. They also didn't understand the guys from Homeland Security in front of the federal building that were armed. They didn't understand a lot of stuff that I thought was
like,
kind of.
It's like Welcome to America, right?
Yeah, it's America.
Well, I'm curious, John, did you want to weigh in on the bike you use, or Terry, since it's kind of a similar or different design, but similar to one another?
Yeah, I definitely I do like our bike. The little kind of door that opens up kind of in the front of the bike, I think is inviting for people to come over and take a look at. Because I think that is a necessary feature, like having it as open as possible for people to again realize, like kind of was already said, like okay, it's not ice cream, it's not. I'm not selling anything. I have books here, you know. Even when they see it's books, you know, it's like, oh, are you selling those? Like, what's going on? But like, you know, just having that helps a lot. And yeah, I think that, you know, kind of multiple shelves help out. You know, we have been, you know, some of the conversations I've had with other librarians too have just been like, how can we like utilize in maybe like future designs, or how do we add on to like more shelving and things like that, just so we can maybe like break up categories a little bit more, because everyone's kind of asking for certain genres, or like just make it more I guess more similar to kind of what they would find at a bookstore or library. Like how do we replicate that while still making it possible to bike around with the most books as possible and the most supplies as possible. So yeah, it's been interesting working with like, okay, here's kind of the basic design, this is what we absolutely need, this is also kind of the budget that I have, this is who is around who can help us out, like how do we get all of that together to kind of get, you know, I like the idea of that coloring sheet of like the kids' dream bike, like because as soon as you said that, I was like, oh, how would I design my best book bike, you know? Like I immediately started thinking of that, because while I do really like my design, I like the original bike with the pull out shelf. You know, like when you're out there doing it and interacting with people and seeing how people interact with your bike, like, oh, how can I make this a little bit easier? How can I make this better?
It's funny, I
I will say
remember,
about the children's involvement, one thing I've done, an art project is definitely part of it. So I have blank bookmarks. You can get them in lots of like 100 or 500. And when I was doing outreach at the farmers market, when people would come by with small children, there would be a bunch of markers and crayons out there with these little things. I said, well, hey, you could make a bookmark, and they can either leave it or they can take it with them. And you know, the books that I got from the Magellan Middle School, the teacher put together a program, and all the students donated one book, and then they put inside the inside cover, they put their like little book report about what they got out of the book, how they felt
That's
about
cool.
it, and they each made a marker. And I'm gonna admit, much to my sin, I found 2 of those markers in there, and I kept them for myself. They were so good, they were so precious that I could not let them go.
this is for public release, Patrick. It's not a secret anymore.
Oh, that's okay. If you're going to get me for anything criminal, this is the least of it.
That's so great. I was gonna say that my very first summer, I remember a guy, he happened to have a false eye that didn't quite fit very well. So it was kind of intense to talk to him. And he had these great ideas for the bike library and said, have you thought about having a goat pull this cart? Like you got, so there's a wide variety of styles and designs. Terry, did you have anything you wanted to?
Yeah, I've done the bookmark thing too. Usually there's a particular event each year called Artspire. So there's artist booths, music, interactive stuff, and they offer a free space to nonprofits. They just ask that we have an interactive art project. So bookmarks are the obvious, easy go-to for me. So yeah, that's always fun. This is maybe going to motivate me to do something I've been talking about doing for a couple of years. I need to take pictures of all the modifications I've done on the bike for people. Like, I'm fairly tall, but I was having to lean forward too much. I was getting a sore back. I'm getting old. And it was like, this isn't comfortable. So a local guy who builds bikes, he came over. He's the one who put it together when it arrived. And he's like, okay, sit up. Where do you want them? So I kind of put my hands where I wanted my hands to be, where I'd be comfortable. So he built a riser basically for the handlebars. I've got a trunk, like you can put in like extra storage in your car. I found one that fit perfectly in there, so I could keep stuff in there. I've got a cardboard, I think you could see it in the one picture. There's a cardboard bookshelf for children's books, for picture books facing forward. That fits perfectly in the front. And then I've got actually 2 extra wooden ones like that I'll bring along to bigger events so I can have more picture books on display at once. So lots of stuff is piled up on top when I'm riding some days.
Yeah, we know something about that. I love that, Terry. And I think it's so cool to think in terms of documenting each thing as you
I need to do that.
Create it, because that is particularly useful, I think, to people that are trying to craft something and figure out how to best, put it out there. Yeah.
I'm making a note.
Oh, good.
Don't forget.
Well, I'm wondering, we have about 15 minutes left together, and I want to just throw out what advice would you give folks who are getting ready to launch something like this, or thinking about starting something like this? And maybe these are 2 connected questions. What do you wish you'd known on day 1 when you were first embarking on a project? Anyone want to jump in? Have the first ideas?
I wish I could have predicted the pandemic.
All of us, right?
Yeah. The one note I'll make is, because the first year you guys came for the Texas Book Festival, I had modified the bike from 6-speed. It came standard 6-speed. I got 8-speed. And you have been to Austin, Texas. And so there, it's hillier than people realize. And so after doing that, I do have an electric hub motor, 500-watt hub motor operation now. And it is so much easier to move around. And the good news is that the bike company donated that upgrade, so it hasn't cost me anything, which was really good.
That's cool.
as a first consideration, unless you really are some kind of hardcore cycler, those electric options are actually coming way down in price. So even if you don't get one with the bike, Bafang in China, and there are a bunch of other people that have mid-mount upgrade options. There's a lot of electric options you can do now that weren't out there when I first did this.
That's
Get an
great.
electric assist. Definitely. I second that.
Yeah, that was funny. Our first two bikes were people powered, and then by bike number 3, we began to have librarians that were like, what is wrong with this picture? So it's been great. I think and it's a pretty heavy newer bike, and so I think that's been.
I think
And the bad news is,
I feel like it was a test. I feel like
Terry
it was a
noted,
test.
the bad news is now I've got an electric motor. Laura, I've got eyeglasses. I started adding so much more to the cargo box because I did have an electric motor. So now I have a wide selection of magazines, a lot of comic books. I have eyeglasses. I went out yesterday. I had a cooler with ice in it, and the ice pops and the stuff. So that's the downside. Now you're doing much more than books.
That's
It's true.
People ask me, why don't you have a motor? I'm like, then people want me to go farther. I've got a nice radius that's fairly flat. I also enjoy it. It's always guys. Sorry, it's always guys. I'll be at a festival and they'll walk around the bike and they're looking. And at this point, I just whisper to whatever woman is with him. So he's going to ask where the motor is. He comes around, he looks under, where's the motor? I just slap my leg. Yeah. A motor would be nice at this point. Maybe the next bike.
I can add some thoughts from Poland. This is the thing. Maybe I am example for small communities, and that you need to have like a network of people to start some crazy ideas, like building a bike from the scratch, from just like an idea. You read about something in a book in English, and suddenly you have urge to do something, and it's really cool that you have people. And the thing is, you need to talk about it, because maybe there's a bike creator, bike builder around you, and it's really good to have that feeling. And it's more connected with the community if it's made, as Patrick said, with a identification that it's ours, it's made in here, we are proud of it. I really appreciated that Laura sent that poster, because this is like a big news that I'm here with you today, because it's like a local story that the guy from local library is taking part in that event. So small communities have like a strong force to do that project in their community. So I really encourage people who are hearing us after that, you need to do it. We have the same thing about electric engine. As I said, we put the engine this year, and it's much faster. We can do more. We can do quicker delivers. So it's really cool thing. But yeah, the guys are always saying, "Where is the engine?" This is the same from my experience. Always the guys are looking and asking, "Are you pedaling? Is it your force, or do you have some kind of an engine to help you?" Yeah, so it is a good thing. And my how to say it, summary is that you need to surround you with books. The books have all the knowledge, all the ideas, and maybe somebody get like a proper idea. You need just to contact and to take it and do it in your place. So this is my summary for all the people. Yeah.
I love that. And I think, I'm struck, Patrick alluded to this, but right now in the United States, various states, including Patrick's, are focused more on banning books than on making sure that people have access to the books. Oh, Terry, I love your t-shirt. We need to get matching Read Banned Books t-shirts. One of the things that I've been thinking I would like to do and have yet to do, but it's on my list, is just focus on some of the banned books and make sure that we have a display at the libraries so that those conversations around the banning of books are also happening and people are getting access to them. But one thing that I'm struck by that I think I didn't know when I launched a 3-month art project in 2011. It really didn't have that. There was not an ambitious, like 13 years from now, I'm going to gather all the good projects together and then we'll talk about how to take over the world or whatever. It was really very much a 3-month art project. And one thing I think I had no idea about was how many people would want to help and how many people would make it a priority to make something easier for me or for that project and for the people then that joined that project. And in Portland, we are a very literary city, and people donated books. And Terry alluded to the fact that there are no longer a tidal wave of books in her house. And that's what I was looking at that first summer. There were so many people, once the word began to spread, that were interested in donating that I really had a crisis in my basement. My husband took a picture of it. It was so epic. And it was just beyond me. And so I think that's one thing that I think back to, and how going forth we've managed to build this, what was an art project, into something that is a movement and that is a crew of people getting paid for the work. And it is because of the number of people who believed in that idea of building human connection and taking care of people at the street level. So that's one thing that I'm really proud of, and also just so impressed by, because I recognize the work that each of you have done, and probably the low points where you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so tired. This seems like a crazy notion, an idea, and certainly we have had those along the way. And so I just want to maybe make a space for last thoughts, for anything you're taking away from today, anything that you are excited about doing next.
Laura, I'm still stealing ideas from you all these years later. I saw your flyer for the book ride book donation, and the people from the book story night, Valerie from Book Story Night and I are talking about putting together a joint event to do that. And she may be involved I told her, like, well, as a quid pro quo, I can maybe squeeze a bit of you into the Texas Book Festival booth, because I'll be there again this year.
That's excellent. I would say too, where Street Books is concerned, there's no such thing as stealing, because we are an open source code of an organization. Anything that you can use, you're welcome to. And
no, this is Texas. We just say steal. Like there's nothing you can do about it. I took it.
That's right. That's right. I forget that. Steal and carry at your in your belt. That bike ride that just happened a few days ago was incredible, because and a couple of our board members created that in Portland. During the summer, there are Pedalpalooza rides. And those are rides themed around, there's a naked bike ride you may have read about. There is a Prince and the
Seen
Revolution.
Too many photos.
Yeah, 4 photos. There's a kitty cat ride where everyone dresses as cats and carry their cats in their baskets, probably to the trauma of the cats. But anyway, there are themed bike rides, and our board made a bike ride based on, it was the Book Lovers bike ride. And, no surprise, in Portland, Oregon, more than 100 people came. And one of the very coolest parts was that they brought a book to exchange. And so at one point in a park, we spread blankets, and they spread out their books, and then people came and took a book and left a book, which of course opens up that moment where you wait to see if anyone takes your book. I talked to someone who was like, no one took my book. But anyway, largely it was very beautiful. And I would say that was something that probably we'll try to make annual here in Portland, at least. People were so keen to come and exchange a book. And so that was a very cool thing.
Yeah. It was a really successful ride. I highly recommend everyone try to make that happen if they can. It was really great. The book exchange was at the very end of the ride, where we kind of met, which was awesome. Like, I was standing around with a board member and commented on just how great it was to see a huge crowd of people, all of them who love books, all of them holding a book. talking to other people, mostly about books, bikes, summer, lots of different topics, but like everyone had a new book, and so they were happy and talking to each other, and it was a really great ride.
Yeah, and I would just say one of the board members had the beautiful idea of making kind of a bingo card that was specific to, had specific prompts like go find a street librarian, and then you can get one. And so it enabled people to connect who might have just stood shyly with their bicycles. They had a reason to seek someone out, and that felt very good too. There was a lot of nice hybridization, cross-pollination in the group. Yeah.
Sounds
Yeah.
fun.
Go ahead, Terry.
Oh, what?
Any last thoughts?
Do it. It's fun. You know, if you look on my social media back, I think it was early June, I surprised some of the first graders I was reading with. Because they were all, I got to school and nobody had told me everybody was out on field trips. And she's like, but your first graders are going to be having lunch and going to the splash pad in the neighborhood. It's like, okay. So I went and got the bike set up and I set my camera up to record. So the original squeals are them they're excited about the water part. But then they spotted me, all of a sudden you hear my name and just me rolling in, and then these kids coming running. It's, or just riding into a playground and kids leaping off of the play gear yelling, books, she's got books,
That's
like
amazing.
I said, it's a low income neighborhood and there are libraries in our town, but they aren't super close to where we are.
Mhm.
And if they don't have a ride, they're not going to get there. So yeah, it's fun. I keep telling myself that when I'm sweating and loading it up. It's fun. It's fun.
If I could, the Archbishop Desmond Tutu and His Holiness the Dalai Lama have something they call the joy movement. And just to share two thoughts with you, Archbishop Desmond Tutu said that when times were really rough, he was asked by His Holiness, how did you get through? And he said, I did not become a prisoner of hope. And then when the Archbishop asked His Holiness, well, you have a very long and troubled history, he said, how did you make do? And he said, well, there's two kinds of selfishness in this world. There's the kind of selfishness that is foolish selfishness, and that is where you do things only for yourself. He said, I try to engage in wise selfishness. He said, wise selfishness is something where I gain a benefit, but I'm doing something for someone else. So that's the way I've looked at Laura's concept for street books. I feel that that's what is at the heart of it. If we spread any small part of joy, that's what it's worth doing. And if you get any small measure of that, you'll continue to do it, even if you curse it under your breath, as I do continually.
Mm-hmm.
I love that, Patrick. Thank you. That it's hard to top Desmond Tutu and the Dalai Lama. That might be a beautiful way to end. I want to thank you all so much. I feel like this is the beginning of whatever we do next. And I'm serious about meeting again in person in the future and making it in Poland, because based on the pictures, I feel like we could all benefit from walking around there and having Stajik show us the ropes. It would be incredible.
My passport's all renewed, so we're good to go.
Well,
You
and I
are
would
you are
say,
invited.
yeah, go ahead.
I have a passport. I just don't like flying, so we'll have to see about that.
Yeah, but you are invited. In Poland, we try to do that small activity and gathering of Polish library in Olésnica. It's quite logistic to do that, but maybe we will have like a practice to do like a bigger event with our partners, library from Poland. So yeah, you are invited, and yeah, we can write together. It would be things to show the world. So yeah.
That would be so amazing. I'll set you all free. Thank you again so much for being here. We'll do it again, and best in your work. Sending you love from Portland, Oregon. Thank you to John, my lovely assistant, who kind of saved me during the technical difficulties. And love to Alicia, who didn't make it, but we are thinking about you, and we'll send this recording. And go forth. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks so much.
Good night from Poland.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you very much. See you.